There's not a one answer for this because it really depends on the action sequence and how far you're going. So, for example, are you doing a Jackie Chan? And no worries, it's a really good question because it's something that we often run into. Is you're trying to get this choreography working in your scene, and as animators, we are not choreographers, not by trade. Some animators are really good at it, but it takes a lot of training. It's another field entirely. It's like lighting and rendering. And sure, you can have an animation with lighting and rendering, but it is technically another field. Choreography is another field aside from animation. So, as animators, it's fun to delve into that, but it is a big topic. So, in terms of getting choreography, you're doing the right step already. You're doing master studies, you're looking at other shots. And it would match into a previs layout. Yeah, exactly. So previs and layout, that's where you're going to be doing this kind of stuff. And when you're animating, this is why we do a previs layout pass. Even so, for example, if you don't have a previs or layout artist on your project, or for example, you're doing it on your own, you want to do a previs or layout pass. Essentially, it's just blocking in the basic camera movement, basic camera timing, with just the characters sliding across on screen. Imagine my favorite little prop here. You've got this little character, and instead of animating them in any way, you just kind of slide them across. Just doing their own thing and just do, like that. And you just slide them across the screen. And this is where you get the timing and the overall motions of the camera in that moment. You're going to refine them later, and you're going to keep improving them, but you want to get that feeling in there at that point. Make sure you have enough holds, make sure you have enough fast motions, all of that stuff. Now, again, the tricky part here is that there is no one answer. There's no like rule that you can use. It's the same as animation. You're animating a camera just like you would a character in a sense. A character can move really slowly, more of a VFX style where it's more realistic, or just super cartoony and like squash and stretch and all of this stuff where it's just unrealistic. With cameras, it's the same thing. We can animate it very slowly, keep it very still. We can move it in a more realistic way, or you could go really crazy and like have all sorts of like dollies and pans and like flips and gimbals. Think of like a Sakuga shot in an anime where like you've got just a character where they go right by the camera and everything stretches and it whips past and they're flipping through the air and then whips past again by the camera, and it's just like crazy motion. There's no rule per se, but there are a few things that you can do to make sure that the camera feels good. So the big one is don't let the camera do any motions that you couldn't do in real life. So basically what I mean by that is even with a crazy camera shot, you don't want the camera to just be spinning and flipping and moving in a way that a cameraman or a camera person would not be able to do. It just looks fake. It looks weird. It just breaks the immersion because the whole world feels fake now. Because that the camera is where we as the audience are experiencing the world. And if it's moving in an unrealistic way, it makes the whole world feel unrealistic. So it doesn't mean that it can't move quickly, but it can't do these weird rotations or weird translations that are just totally unbelievable. Okay, so I was planning on pretty stable cam with big field of view changes. So with that, once again, the field of view changes have to be fast, or they can be fast, but they shouldn't be so fast that they just snap. And that's going to be tricky. It depends on the range that you're going for. How, like, are you going from a 50 to a 70, or are you going from like a 20 to a 200 millimeter? Those are going to make big differences on the way you push the camera and the speed that you go with. Again, this is where the previs comes in, doing that layout pass. because you can very quickly see if it feels too fast, okay, you slow it down. If it feels too slow, you speed it up. It's going to be very important to get that pass in there. And what I would do is just look at films where they change the field of vision. So things like, look for any shots that have like the Spielberg dolly zoom in there. Look at how much time they take to do that effect in general. I just need a little water. Look at shots where you get that kind of shift in there. And just count the frames. See how much time on average you will get that timing in there. Also, pay attention to see if most movies actually change the field of view, actually zoom in and out. Very rarely do movies tend to zoom in and out mid-scene unless it's a very specific type of shot. Normally they will cut instead to a different lens. Does it mean we can't do that? No. But the reason why they tend not to is that when you change the field of view, it pushes the dimensionality of it, or flattens the image, and it can feel a little weird when that's in motion. So instead you will dolly the camera, actually move it in and out from the scene. But does that mean we can't do it? No. We just have to be very careful how we do it. So yeah, I feel like I didn't really answer your question. So if you have any other questions on that, definitely let me know, or if you want more clarification. But the big thing is that there's unfortunately not a real answer. It's like animation. It's what feels right for what you want. If it's a cartoony shot, it'll be faster than what you would normally have. If it's a VFX shot, if it's too fast, it's going to break the entire feeling of realism. So it's that balance for the project as well as for the world that you're creating. And the best way, unfortunately, I guess, to do that is to just study, and in terms of timing, just time out films. See how long they spend doing certain things. So, yeah, I hope that helps. Let's see. Just a bit overwhelmed myself by all the infos I want to hold before diving in. But I'll start storyboarding and keep studying different sequences. Yeah, that's the big thing, is you're doing it the right way. It is a tough thing to wrap your brain around. Now, if you do want to learn a little bit more about cinematography and get a lot of like proper techniques on cinematography, I would recommend the book, The 5 C's of Cinematography. You can find it if you click on the Amazon button right here up on the video where my fingers are. If you just hover the cursor over there, there's a list of recommended books that I have. If you look for The 5 C's of Cinematography, that is a great book just on cinematography and how to use cameras. I would highly recommend that. Especially if you want to kind of dive deeper into that topic and really learn proper cinematography. It's a good place to start. That one, and if you're interested in learning how to do storyboarding, I always forget the name of it. What is it called? Let me find the name. Directing the Story, which is also in there. Okay, already got the Anatomy of Story. Nice. So the other one is Directing the Story, which is really good. It's a book that's done all in storyboard form to teach you how to do storyboards, which is really cool. I really like that book.